Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Meredith E. Phillips. I'm a writer, reader, and bunny mama. Today I'm going to be doing what might be a little bit controversial. I'm going to let you know my top 5 least favorite romance tropes. Some of these tropes are pretty popular. I see a lot of books and a lot of people reading them. If you like them, I am happy for you. You can go ahead and read them. I do not usually enjoy them. I will say that 4 of these tropes don't necessarily mean like a book is completely out for me. I will read them if some other element of the plot looks interesting. There is one though, there is one that if I know that this is part of the plot, I will not read the book. We'll save that one for last because it is absolutely my least favorite, and I will go so far as to say I hate it. I hate it. It's horrible. We'll get to it. I'm not including stuff that is obviously not cool, like abusive situations being romanticized. Definitely not into that. These are legitimate tropes that are used that I don't think are generally problematic, but just personally, I dislike them. So here are my top 5 least favorite romance tropes in no particular order except for that one that we'll get to at the end because I'm gonna go off about it. The first one we're gonna talk about is the billionaire romance novels. This is a really popular subgenre, and I kind of get it. Who wouldn't want to fall in love with a billionaire and just have money all over the place? I get it, and there's a lot of opportunity for him to take her on amazing dates, and he lives in a palace and all this kind of stuff, and it's so fantastical. I think the reason that I don't like it is because it's so far from anything that could really happen to the vast majority of people. A lot of romance novels, the plot, sometimes there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief, sure, but a lot of times the plot isn't completely out there. For me, something about the billionaire is just, it's so far-fetched. I looked it up actually because I was curious. In the entire world, there's only about 2,100 billionaires, okay? That's a lot of money, but in the United States, there's only about 650 billionaires. And you're telling me that like the poor maid that is destitute on the street or something happens to run into a billionaire and he falls in love with her? It's just a little far-fetched. I can't do it. I will say, if you watched my previous video on my favorite romance tropes, I named Icy Dukes as one of my favorites, and that's true. Now, there are a lot of dukes in historical romance novels, and I looked that up too, and there's only currently 30 dukes in all of England. It's not a big pool. And so the idea of there being all of these really handsome, really romantic dukes out there is a little far-fetched too. I will admit that. I don't know why though, something about the duke thing, I don't care. We can go with it. But the billionaire is really hard for me to get into. My next least favorite romance trope is the love triangle. I know a lot of people like this, and I think it can be done well, but most of the time, in my opinion, it is not done well. You can almost always tell who she's going to pick or who he's going to pick. And then you're like, why are you wasting your time on this other person who's obviously the wrong choice? How could you think they're the right choice? Your right choice is over here! It's frustrating. So it builds a lot of conflict where I usually think there shouldn't be any conflict because to me as the reader, the choice is really clear. I will say that I think I've only read one book series where there's a love triangle and I legitimately did not know who she was going to pick, and that is Cassandra Clare's Infernal Devices. That is how you do a love triangle. If you don't know, that's how you do it, okay? That book series was so good. I would recommend reading that purely for the romance. The rest of the book is great too, don't get me wrong. I like that world that she's created. It's a lot of fun. It's a fantasy novel first and foremost. It's not really a romance book, but there is a romance subplot that involves this love triangle, and it's done really well. Aside from that, I can't really think of a book with a love triangle. that I was convinced by. This next one might be controversial because it's actually a really popular one and I just don't like it. And that is the fake dating or fake engagement trope. This is another one where it's so outside of anything that I think is realistic. I can't get into it. Have you ever known anyone to do a fake dating relationship? Like, who does that? Or especially the fake engagement one is like hilarious. No one does this! I have never heard of that being a thing in real life for anyone at any time ever. If you know of someone, let me know, but I generally think that that is never happening in the world. So the idea that it happens in all of these novels, I just can't get there. It just is weird to me. And a lot of times the reasoning behind why they need to put on this fake relationship is so flimsy. It doesn't make sense. I cannot tell you how many books I've read where it's like the playboy athlete or the playboy lawyer who needs to impress the fans or he needs to impress his partners by pretending he has a girlfriend or a serious relationship so he can be seen in a better light. Really? What athlete does that? There are so many athletes that you could look up and they jump from person to person and have relationships that start and end, and the fans don't care. They're still showing up to the games. Not right now because #coronavirus, but most of the time a player's personal life, yeah, it might be in tabloids and gossip columns and things like that, but I can't think of someone where their personal life was so horrendously scandalous that it like really screwed things up. I don't know. It's weird. And the lawyer one is also weird to me. Like, is that a thing? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know any lawyers. I feel like, you know, your clients wouldn't know if you were in any kind of relationship. Like, why does that matter? So yeah, the fake relationship, fake dating, fake engagement, I'm not a huge fan of it. My next least favorite romance trope is the best friend's sibling trope. This is where your best friend is falling in love with your sibling, and this is way too scandalous and taboo for anyone to be able to handle, and it's a big problem, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Why is it such a problem? Like, I can see why that would be a little awkward and a little strange to get used to, but is your best friend really gonna be like, you cannot date my sibling or our friendship is over? Really? Like, that's kind of a flimsy friendship then, frankly. It just creates a lot of drama and a lot of angst that I feel is unrealistic and doesn't need to be there. So best friend's sibling, like, why? Just let them date and it'll be fine. It'll probably be fine. I just don't get it. Again, those first 4 tropes, if it's in the book, it's not an automatic pass for me. I don't tend to gravitate toward those books, but I won't necessarily hate it. I do think there are times where those tropes can be done really well and it's fun and I enjoy them. Not all the time, not most of the time, but some of the time. Now we come to it. The final trope, it is my least favorite trope. I have never read a book that has this trope that I have enjoyed. I hate it. I hate it. And that is the surprise pregnancy trope. Why is this a thing? I hate it so much. For me, this completely ruins the book. Thankfully, a lot of times you can tell if this is going to be in the book just from the book description. And if I can tell that it's in a book, pass. I am not picking that book up. However, every now and then I will start a book and it is a surprise to the reader as well. Like, I had no idea it was going to be in there and I get so mad. There's books I've DNF'd because I do not want to read it. Every time the woman ends up pregnant, the rest of the book is going to doctor appointments and doing baby stuff. And I am not interested in reading about your doctor appointment and setting up the nursery and all that. No, that's not what I'm here for, okay? There's also usually the drama of now the guy has to be with her in some capacity because he's the father, but does he really want to be with me? But because we have this baby, does he really love me? And it's like, oh, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. So please do not recommend to me any books with that trope in it. I do not like it. So anyway, those are my 5 least favorite tropes that are found in romance novels. If you have a book suggestion with these tropes in it that is a good book, feel free to recommend them in the comments and I'll check them out. Otherwise, don't recommend these to me. I don't like them. I don't like them. So that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more from me in the future, please hit the subscribe button. I post new videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. Thanks, bye.